CBS, NBC, CNN, et cetera,
Right.
they're not reporting actual facts. They're not investigating what's happening.
That's right. They tell people that the Earth is getting hotter, but they will not show the actual data. They won't show the actual charts because it refutes it. And they have a tremendous amount invested. You know, some people have referred to it as a religion, and I think, you know, I've talked to some people. It is a religion for them.
You think that there's censorship, or do you think it's sabotaging our democracy?
Well, both. Both are going on, because to censor the news is sabotage democracy. The purpose of the news media is to be a watchdog in the government and also an intelligence service for the people. And the power is supposed to reside with the people. So if the news media tells people the truth, this works. Just like if you're a general and you have your intelligence officers come in and tell you what's going on. But if they give false information or if they censor information, then the people can't make the right decisions. I think the economic crisis we're in right now is largely the result of the news media, because they did not warn people about the dangers of all this debt. I mean, we today have, I believe, $1 trillion worth of debt with Red China. If you told someone 20 years ago that, they wouldn't believe you, because they, you know, how could we put ourselves into that vulnerable of a position, and yet it's happened, and we're paying the price for it today.
Well, do you think that perhaps the media is also focusing on, like, different cases or babies?
Sure. Well, you know, there's one channel, CNN. They have like 3, I believe, and 50% or more every night for the last 6 months has been just one single crime, a murder in Florida. Mm-hmm. And if they put 1/10 of that much resources into investigating, let's say, the last 2 administrations, investigating where the TARP money is actually gone, no one knows. I just listened to congressional hearings today, and they still don't know where all those billions of dollars went. But I think what they're up to when they do this, and they did the same thing with O.J. Simpson, is to distract the American people from the real issues and get them, you know, because the news media is paying so much attention to something that people think, oh, this must be really important. But 25 years from now, no one's going to remember the name of the person murdered in Florida.
All right.
Yeah.
What about elections? Do you think they've been sabotaged because of the media, or do they have?
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, and there is, you know, it's been pointed out, there's some cases where the Washington press corps actually polled themselves, and I believe there's about 1,500 people in the Washington press corps, and in these polls in 1992, by a ratio of over 10 to 1, they voted for Bill Clinton over George Bush 1, and that's an amazing figure, because the American people were, you know, maybe 6 to 5 in that election for Clinton. And they also polled themselves for every election from 60 until 92. In every election, the news reporters voted at least 5 to 1 for the Democratic candidate. But that's still not the major issue, because they will do the exact same thing to a Democrat that they'll do to a Republican if they favor another Democrat over them. I think a great example of that was in 1988 with Gary Hart. Gary Hart, they suspected him of possibly one case of adultery, and they hounded him. They had helicopters flying over his house, and they ran him out of the election over that suspicion. But then when Bill Clinton came along, who they favored, by the way, the reason they did that was because Dukakis was further to the left and more in favor of one world government, less nationalistic than Gary Hart is. And so in '92, Bill Clinton comes along. Bill Clinton has admitted to having adultery with over 100 different women, and they were fine with it. And in fact, they did everything they could to help him get over that issue. And, right.
Well.
And they become kingmakers when they do this, because by doing that, they determine who becomes a president and who doesn't, or they even knock people out of office. Chris Mathews said, in reference to Bill Clinton, he said that if
Chris Mathews let that cat out of the bag in a recent Insight magazine interview. I gotta tell you, if Nixon had been involved like this with a young staffer, Lewinsky, The establishment media would have run him out of town the day the story broke. We knew Clinton lied about Gennifer Flowers. Anyone who has a brain and heard the tape-recorded conversations between them knew what was going on.
And Dennis Kucinich or Ron Paul, one from each of the parties, when they stood up, and there was a couple others, but they come to mind, when they stood up and spoke the truth, they were laughed at and ridiculed by the major media. And now some of those fellows are back on those same stations, and now they're like, well, how did you know that? And now the truth is allowed to come out, especially like on the economics. And now they're soothsayers, so it's kind of interesting.
But it's because they're no longer a threat to who they wanted to get elected.
Exactly. That's the way it is. That's what I see now. And it's a little bit of head patting going on to people like us that say, we knew this all along. I mean, it's, you know, quite frankly, to me, the subject is, so that we're talking about tonight, about the media being basically bought and paid for and manipulative, is not new, is not surprising, is not anything. And I'm just like blown away when somebody repeats something that they heard on the certainly not news network.
You even know who it is. You know, I'll be talking to someone and they'll say something and I go, oh, he listened to you know, Sam Donaldson or Gibson or whatever last night. Yes.
I remember, it's been the last couple of weeks, that a big scandal came out, at least over the internet. I don't recall any major media carrying it, but I could be wrong, that George I always say on all of us, but his name is Stephanopoulos, that he met with Obama's chief of staff, Rahm Emanuel is his name, and he meets with him nearly every single day, and it's to promote the Obama message. And that's not what, I don't believe, what a media is supposed to do. He's supposed to be in the investigative reporting business, and that's what he kind of builds his show at. I have enjoyed to somewhat his shows on Sunday morning, but when he's meeting with the president's chief of staff and saying, basically getting the copy, then that seems a little bit like fabricating news to me.
Oh, well, sure. He's actually a member of the Obama administration, because this is like their main planning meeting in the morning, and he's making contributions as to what the policies are of the Obama administration. So how can he fairly, at the end of the day, criticize the policies that he is coming up with? He's an unpaid member of the Obama administration. A lot of people in the media have actually flat out confessed to censoring the news and fabricating stories.
Right. I remember last week or a couple of weeks ago, I believe you brought in a video, and we actually saw kind of O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly. And Bill O'Reilly was speaking at a press conference?
It was a accuracy and media event, and is actually kind for Bill O'Reilly to go to the event. It's in Washington, D.C. And we see we're getting some things. The poll is up there, and we'll get some of the other clips, and we should have Bill O'Reilly pretty soon. But he explained how the media is censored. He went into detail about how his career would be ruined if he reported certain stories. And I was also a speaker at the same event, and so got a tape of this, and this is something you will not see on network news.
I'm sorry, if you watch the O'Reilly Factor, you know that I am. I mean, I go after everything. But if I go out on a limb and say the TWA crash was caused by a missile, I better be damn well sure I can prove that in a court of law. And I can't. Because if I can't prove it in a court of law, they'll kill me. They'll kill me, and my career will be done. And I don't have the ink. See, I can't fight 60 Minutes in the New York Times. All the New York Times has to say, all Bill Barr has to say, one time is, O'Reilly's a lunatic. That's all he has to say. And that power will label me forever. I got to walk the wire. And that's how intense this game is. And the Clinton people, the Bush people, whatever people are going to be in power the next, they know that. And they have people